Hello there and welcome to the pre-release guide for Core Set 2020. Now we're going to go over commons and uncommons only in this pre-release guide because you're going to see so many of them. That's going to be almost everything that you open up, so really having a good grasp of those is going to make it easy to do that deck building. We're going to go over a lot of the more interesting interactions, some of the rares that I want you to watch out for or get excited for in a video that's going to come out in about 2 days. So for now, let's go over the uncommons and commons, and let's just jump right into it. Okay, so let's talk about lands first. We've got all 10 gain lands, Evolving Wilds, and Cryptic Caves. Now with the 10 gain lands and Evolving Wilds at common, I would say your default deck in this set will be 2 colors and then a little bit of a splash. That's the default. The default isn't 2 colors like I've said before, so you can get a little bit more wild with things. Of course, that means I'll probably be going 5 colors. Now Cryptic Cave, if you're going 2 to 3 colors and you can sneak it into your mana base, this is a really strong effect, so try to sneak it in if you can. If you're 4 or 5 colors, don't try it. Now for white, we start off with Ancestral Blade, Loyal Pegasus, and Moorland Inquisitor, and these are kind of just the cards that are getting you going early. Ancestral Blade is great because it's basically a 2/2 for 2, but when it dies, then you just get this little sword that makes all your stuff a little bit better. And a little bit better all game long ends up being pretty sweet. Loyal Pegasus is obviously fantastic, but just because white and blue have a lot of flyers, so you're going to be able to get in the air with Loyal Pegasus quite a bit, I'm imagining. Moorland Inquisitor is just a kind of like an aggressive little guy that's going to get you going. Next up, we've got Master Splicer and Steadfast Sentry. Now, Master Splicer is just a great deal of power and toughness for the converted mana cost, so it's just a great deal. And Steadfast Sentry is good at attacking, but where it really shines is when you're flying overhead. You can block with Steadfast Sentry, put the +1/+1 counter on your blockers, and that's pretty annoying. Angel of Vitality, Dawning Angel, and Herald of the Sun bring our little angel package in here. Now, Angel of Vitality is actually good as just a flyer with none of the other text, and all of that is just gravy, okay? Dawning Angel I like because, you have a problem when you're trying to fly over with losing a lot of health at the beginning of the game, so that can help with that sort of problem. And Herald of the Sun is good with none of that extra text, but since there's so many flyers in white, and if you pair with blue especially, you are actually going to use that ability a decent amount of the time. Next up, we've got God's Willing and Pacifism. Now, God's Willing is an extremely tricky card. Protection From is a very, very good ability. You can use it to get in attacks and make it so that your card is unblockable against the cards that could block it. You can use it as the ultimate combat trick so that their thing just can't deal damage to your card. It's just very versatile. You can stop removal spells from killing your stuff. So it's really good at just 1 mana. Pacifism is just a 2 mana removal spell, and that makes it good. To start us off in blue, we've got Brineborn, Cutthroat, Frostlynx, Moat Piranhas, and Octoprophet. Now, what you'll notice about all 4 of these cards is they're not that aggressive, including Brineborn Cutthroat. So what you're trying to do with these cards actually is slow your opponent's roll, freezing them down with Frostlynx, Moat Piranhas just being obscenely huge in the early game, and Octoprophet is basically going to trade off and make sure that your card draw is better than your opponent's in the late game. And so what are you trying to do with this? Well, you're trying to get those flyers to kill them from above. Spectral Sailor, Metropolis Sprite, and Warden of Evos Isle are the small flyers that are going to get you started. Spectral Sailor looks pretty ridiculous, but normally I wouldn't say to play a 1/1 flyer for 1, but the draw ability is amazing in the late game. So once it becomes kind of useless in the air, you can just use it to draw cards. That's fantastic. Metropolis Sprite is totally reasonable, and Warden of Evos Isle, even if you don't have that many flyers, is kind of just okay as a 2/2 flyer for 3. Cloudkin Seer, Air Elemental, and Boreal Elemental are the rest of our flyers. Now, Cloudkin Seer is obscene. 3 mana for a 2/1 flyer that draws you a card. Oh my gosh, I would play as many of these as I could open. I mean, that's ridiculous. Air Elemental is one of those cards that just looks like a big dumb flyer and is a big dumb flyer, but it's very well costed and will kill your opponent shockingly fast. Boreal Elemental, the ability doesn't look that amazing considering how much mana you're paying for this guy, but let me tell you what. This is the thing that's going to be attracting removal spells, so the fact that you're taxing them on them is just purely great. Hardcover, Winged Words, and Sleep Paralysis are our last 3 cards in blue. Now, Hardcover, I'm looking to accomplish something with this, so don't just put it out there when you're not really that excited to use it. You can play it early in the game if you're not hitting land drops and you really need to. You can play it late in the game, that's where I'm really excited to do it, when they've already used a lot of their removal, and then you're just going to start looting your way to victory. Winged Words would be good without the extra text, just to draw 2 cards. But because there's so many flyers in blue, when this is a 2-mana draw 2, it's just so good. Now, Sleep Paralysis is your standard removal spell in blue, and therefore worth noticing. Vampire of the Dire Moon and Yarok's Fenlurker start us off in black. Vampire of the Dire Moon looks like it might be an aggressive card, but it's really not. If you get a few hits with that lifelink, that's nice, but mostly it's an annoying 1/1 for 1 Death Touch, which is very annoying. Yarok's Fenlurker is always going to get value pretty much. Very nice card, and so you play it early, you get the card out of their hand, and then later on you can pump it up a little bit and get it to trade off. So nice little 2-for-1 built in there. Vengeful Warchief and Epicure of Blood are just 2 5-drops that are going to reward you for things that are going to happen a lot anyway. So Vengeful Warchief, you're getting pecked away at the air, he's grown bigger. Epicure of Blood, there's a lot of random life gain. In black, there's some life link. In white, there's tons of life gain. So you can really get quite the little thing going here. Sanitarium Skeleton, Gorging Vulture, and Gravedigger are next cards. Now, Sanitarium Skeleton doesn't look like it's got too much going on, but you can sack it to other cards that like things dying. You can just keep buying it back and chump blocking forever. It's a very annoying card, and becomes obvious once you play with it. Gorging Vulture, this is just going to help you get your graveyard synergies started, and flyers never hurt. Gravedigger is a shockingly good card, even though it doesn't look like too much is going on there. You just get that 2-for-1, which is just always good. Bloodthirsty Aerialist and Blood-Soaked Altar are next 2 cards. Now, Bloodthirsty Aerialist is good with just the stats and flying, but its ability is so good. If it's also paired with white, you're just going to trigger that a bunch. I mean, an amazing flyer, and there's a good amount of lifelink in black as well, which will grow this card. Now, Blood-Soaked Altar is, you're paying a high price for that flyer. Let's get that straight. However, if you're doing stuff like playing that Sanitarium Skeleton, so you have stuff to sack and toss for free, got some little guys laying around, 5/5 flyers end the game so fast, it's not a joke. So this card, I think, is decent, although you do have to build around it. You can't just be throwing your good cards under the bus. Disfigure, Murder, Bone Splinters, and Agonizing Siphon are all the removal spells I'd like to point out. Now, Disfigure is just so cheap, and there's lots of little guys in this set, lots of little guys. So this is going to hit a lot of stuff. Murder at common is just so good. Just kills anything, instant speed, play as many murders as you open. Oh man, it's such a good card. Bone Splinters is something that I'll put 1 of in pretty much any black deck. Any. However, if I've got 2 or 3 Sanitarium Skeletons, I'm doing all the nonsense with the graveyard, then you can put in your second Bone Splinters, your third Bone Splinters, but it's not one you can just overload on, okay? Now, Agonizing Siphon, you're paying actually a decent amount for that. That is like a lot. However, there are a lot of cards that give you bonuses for gaining life, like Epicure of Blood and stuff, so this card can work out pretty well. There's also a lot of flyers, and Agonizing Siphon kills a huge proportion of them. To start us off in red, we got Ember Hauler, Goblin Bird Grabber, and Goblin Smuggler. Now these are all some little guys that are going to get in for some damage, but also have some nice little abilities, which I like having abilities that can kind of do something a little extra as the game goes on. And of course, Goblin Smuggler has the best flavor text, and that's part of the reason he's here. Scampering Scorcher, Keldon Raider, and Destructive Digger are our next 3 cards now. Scampering Scorcher is just going to get in there nice and aggressive. There's some elemental synergies in this set, so that makes it better. And, we've got some sacrifice fodder going on here. All around, it's a pretty interesting card. Keldon Raider and Destructive Digger are just good bodies for their size, and then they've got some value added on top. Keldon Raider gives that value right away, helping you sculpt your hand. Destructive Digger, when he gets a little bit outclassed, can sit around and trade resources. Next up, we've got Daggersail Aeronaut, Rapacious Dragon, and Chandra Novice Pyromancer. Now, Daggersail Aeronaut is amazing because this is a non-dragon red flyer. You don't see that every day. But more seriously, having some flying in red is a very good way to get some damage in. Rapacious Dragon is secretly better in 3 and 4 color strategies because what's happening here is it only costs 1 red to unlock, and then it helps you splash everything else. So if you're like green, red, and then splash all the other colors, then your dragon helps you do that. Chandra Novice Pyromancer is important because it helps us break into the Chinese market, but more seriously, the -2 is just good. You just use that twice. Last up, we've got Infuriate, Shock, and Chandra's Outrage. Now, Infuriate is great because of that flavor text, which is spot on. Shock, as I said before with this figure, there's a lot of little duders in this set with good abilities, and this is going to take care of them. Chandra's Outrage is for getting the bigger stuff, and the damage to the face is just gravy. Next up, we got Sedge Scorpion, Barkhide Troll, and Leafkin Druid. Now, Sedge Scorpion's just annoying because it's a 1/1 Death Touch for 1, and it's in green. Ooh, and green likes to slow things down and play its big creatures, so Sedge Scorpion really allows it to do that. The Troll is just oversized for what you're paying for it, and Leafkin Druid is getting you towards those big duders. Now next are Netcaster Spider and Mammoth Spider. These are really important because there's a ton of flyers in the set. I mean, there's even that red flyer non-dragon in red. So you have a lot of flyers coming at you, and green has to hold on until it can power out its big dudes. This is how you do that. Super linchpin cards, so don't overlook them. Thrashing Brontodon, Thicket Crasher, Silverback Shaman, and Howling Giant are our next cards. These are big dudes that we're trying to get to. Thrashing Brontodon has some nice little ability there. Really gives a lot of value, but it's just huge for the mana cost. Thicket Crasher, reasonable size, gets more interesting as the game goes on. Silverback Shaman might as well just say, this card must attack each turn. And I love this card. Really annoying with combat tricks because of trample and because your opponent's going to be trying to figure out some way to get a decent deal when you're drawing a card off of it. Howling Giant, of course, is just, man, this thing kind of ends games. There's so much going on in one card. Gift of Paradise, Wolfkin Bond, and Overcome are our next 3 cards. Now, Gift of Paradise is going to help you, of course, cast your big dudes, splash around for some interesting rares, that sort of thing. Great card. Wolfkin Bond, there's a bit of a synergy with Overcome here. Now, Overcome ends a lot of games, so it's definitely a card that you want to be playing 1 or 2 of. Gets better with cards like Wolfkin Bond that make multiple creatures, Master Splicer and White, all that sort of thing. Next up is Plummet and Rabid Bite. Now, Plummet, you normally think, hey, sideboard card right there, I'll bring it in when they got flyers. But actually, there's just a ton of flyers in this set. So I think it's actually pretty main boardable, just 1 Plummet. And also, a lot of the really great bomby rares in this set are also flyers. So Plummet, I think, actually is something that you put 1 in your main board, and then if you don't see any flyers, then it comes out. But I'm pretty happy to just play 1 Plummet right off the bat. Rabid Bite, of course, removal spell in green, it's good. Empyrean Eagle, Ironroot Warlord, Tomebound Lich, and Risen Reef are the interesting cards in multicolored. Now, the first 2 here, Empyrean Eagle and Ironroot Warlord, those are almost rare quality. Those are really, really punching way above their weight class. Tomebound Lich and Risen Reef I also like, but not quite that much. And then the other 5 multicolored cards are just, they're good in their colors. They're fine, you can play them, but they're not like these 4, which are the best ones, with Empyrean Eagle and Ironroot Warlord being the big standouts. Now you notice that I have 4 and then I said the other 5 because Moldervine Reclamation is not really a card. Very bad. Looks like it might be decent, but actually it's not. Don't play that thing. Scuttlemutt and Meteor Golem are the next cards that I'm interested in as artifacts, and Scuttlemutt is good at your 3+ color deck, making sure that you can play everything and ramping you at the same time. So I like that. It has some niche things with God's Willing, so keep that in mind, but otherwise, you know, it's mostly just to ramp you. Meteor Golem is really good. Every time this card shows up, it makes me happy. You just play a 7-drop that blows something up when it comes down, and that is always very satisfying. Now, if you enjoyed this video, I highly suggest that you subscribe. The reason being is in a day or two, I'm going to release a video. If this one has given you a blade with which to fight, the next video, we're going to be talking about a lot of the specific interactions, some cards that are, you know, dangerous pitfalls that should stay out of your deck, all sorts of little tips and tricks, synergies. And so you're going to want to catch that one in a day or two. So I suggest you subscribe, and then when that video comes out, you just unsubscribe, whatever. That's no big deal. Just make sure you catch that. And then when this releases on MTGO on Tuesday, I'm probably going to do a sealed deck, so you get to see me build one, see me play out the format, get you nice and prepared for a weekend pre-release. So I've got all that content coming up. Probably don't want to miss it. And if you enjoyed this video today, give that like. And of course, you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. That would be awesome. And as always, I'll see you next video.